Mrs. Jennifer Phillips?
Yes.
Sorry to disturb you this early, but I had to make sure you'd get this in time.
Why? What is it?
It's a subpoena for you to appear in Superior Court this morning. People versus Wyatt. You're being summoned as a witness for the defense.
For the defense? Well, there must be some kind of mistake. They wouldn't call me.
Sorry if I woke you.
I need you.
Now, calm down, Jennifer. Relax.
John, you don't understand. It's this court order.
Take it easy. There's nothing to worry about, baby.
John, it's from you. I don't understand. I thought you didn't want me to testify, but now this court order says I have to.
You don't have to say a word. You just appear at court in response to the order. Take the stand and let Kathy ask you anything she wants. But you don't have to respond.
No, that's true. I don't. Oh, John, what would I ever do without you?
Come to order. Does the state wish to call any more witnesses at this time?
No, Your Honor.
Very well. The defense may present its first witness.
The defense calls Mrs. Joanne Vincent to the stand.
Joanne Vincent to the stand, please. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated.
State your name, please.
Joanne Vincent.
You state your occupation and where you reside.
I am co-owner of the Hartford House Inn. I also live there.
Mrs. Vincent, are you related to the deceased Eunice Wyatt?
I'm her sister.
Would you describe your relationship with your sister as being a close one?
She was not only my sister, she was my best friend.
I realize this may be painful for you. But would you tell the court the last time you saw your sister alive?
It was just a few days before she was killed. She came out to the inn to have lunch with me.
Can you characterize for us her state of mind on that day?
She was radiant. I don't think I'd ever seen her so at peace, serene. I remember commenting, and she said she was in love, more in love than she had ever been. She and Mr. Wyatt were planning a second honeymoon. They were going to Mexico. That never came about.
Mrs. Vincent, are you also well acquainted with the defendant, John Wyatt?
John was and is one of my closest friends.
When Mr. Wyatt and your sister reconciled, did you ever feel that your brother-in-law was feigning his love for your sister?
Objection. Question calls for an opinion. I am aware of that, Mr. Sullivan, but I will allow the question. Exception. Noted. Will you please answer the question, Mrs. Vincent?
He couldn't have been feigning. His love showed in everything he did, in the way he looked at her, the way he spoke to her.
Based on your long and close friendship with Mr. Wyatt, then, you feel you would be able to tell if his feelings were genuine?
Well, of course. In all the years I've known John, I've never known him to lie.
In your estimation, would Mr. Wyatt be capable of murdering your sister?
Objection. Witness is not a psychologist. Objection denied. I will allow the question. You may proceed, Mrs. Vincent.
It's not possible.
Why do you say that?
Because he loved her. He was deeply in love with her.
Thank you. I have no more questions.
Do you wish to cross-examine Mr. Sullivan?
Yes, Your Honor, I most certainly do.
And now the second portion of Search for Tomorrow. Brought to you by new Sunshine Fresh Mr. Clean.
Mrs. Vincent, you've testified that your sister seemed very happy after her reunion with Mr. Wyatt.
That's correct?
You've quoted her as saying as much, have you not?
Yes.
Yes. Well, can you think of a time when Mr. Wyatt expressed the same feelings?
Many times.
Oh? Can you tell me what he said?
Exactly?
To the best of your ability.
Well, I can't think of the precise words. I can't quote him, but I have the impression...
No, Mrs. Vincent, I am not interested in your impression. Can you quote him?
Well, no.
Oh, come on, Mrs. Vincent. You seem to have a distinct recollection of practically everything else. I mean, you seem to remember your last meeting with your sister, what she looked like, what she said. Are you asking the jury to believe you can't remember anything Mr. Wyatt said?
Well, I can't quote him.
You can quote her, but you can't quote him. Well, don't you think the jury will be disinclined to believe any of your testimony?
Sustained.
Mrs. Vincent, you've testified that your sister was incredibly happy after the reunion with Mr. Wyatt. Can you tell us their reasons for separating in the first place?
Well, there were problems in the marriage. I expect she thought it was advisable to separate for a while.
You expect. Now, how is it you're so expert in matters relating to their reconciliation, and you seem to be so vague and ill-informed about matters relating to their separation? Will you answer the question? Why did your sister and John Wyatt separate?
She discovered that Mr. Wyatt and Jennifer had gone to California together.
And this trip took place without your sister's knowledge?
Yes.
Speak up, Mrs. Vincent. I can't hear you.
Yes.
Mrs. Vincent, you've testified that in all the years you've been acquainted with John Wyatt, you have never known him to lie. Well, what do you call as taking a trip to California with another woman behind his wife's back?
Objection. Question calls for a conclusion.
I'll withdraw the question. Mrs. Vincent, did your sister ever express regret over the separation?
She was brokenhearted.
Did she ever say what she would do if she ever took John Wyatt back?
She said she would try to make up to him for the things that were lacking in their marriage, and she would never let it happen again.
She would never let this happen again? Well, Mrs. Vincent, after your sister and John Wyatt reconciled, did she ever express that she would never let him go, or words to that effect?
Yes.
When did this occur?
A few days before she was killed.
Can you tell me what she said?
She said it was a mistake to let him go to Jennifer without a fight. she would never make that mistake again. She would never let him go.
Well, Mrs. Vincent, doesn't this suggest to you that John Wyatt was trapped into returning to his marriage, and that he had no choice but to go through with a charade of reconciliation in order to obtain his
Your
freedom?
Honor, the question is clearly improper.
I'll withdraw the question. Thank you, Mrs. Vincent. I have no further questions.
Does counsel wish to redirect?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
The witness may step down. Mrs. Phillips, please call your next witness.
The defense calls John Wyatt to the stand.
John Wyatt to the stand. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You may be seated.
We'll return to our story in just a moment.